Welcome back. In this explainer, we're doing what we do best, taking incredible historical texts and breaking them down so you can see exactly how the past shapes our present. Today, we're diving into an absolutely epic transformation. We are going to explore the story of Ariano. This is a story that literally takes us from the smoldering ashes of a completely devastated medieval city, all the way to a modern-day beacon of living, breathing history. So, if you love discovering how ancient loyalties and battlefield betrayals create traditions that last for centuries, well, you are in exactly the right place.
So, here's the big mystery we're going to unravel today. How in the world did a devastating medieval deception on a battlefield end up birthing an enduring modern tradition? Honestly, it sounds like the plot of a fantasy novel, doesn't it? But every single piece of this is grounded in hard historical fact. Okay, let's dive right in and set the stage, because to really understand the vibrant celebration of today, we have to travel back to a moment of absolute desperation.
All right, let's paint the picture. The year is 1255, and Ariano is experiencing one of the absolute darkest, most dramatic moments in its entire history. You see, the city is fiercely loyal to the papacy, which means they are completely hostile to the Swabian cause. And because of this stubborn loyalty, Ariano finds itself under a brutal siege by the troops of Manfred of Sicily, who was the son of Emperor Frederick II. It is a tense, terrifying standoff. But here's the incredible part. The walls of Ariano are actually holding. The citizens are resisting, and it looks like the city might just survive. But Manfred, realizing that brute force isn't going to break them, decides to completely change his tactics.
Manfred resorts to pure trickery. He executes a devastating military deception. And I want you to follow this exact timeline with me. Step 1. Saracen soldiers from Lucera approach the city gates, completely faking a desertion. They literally beg to be let in. Step 2. The citizens of Ariano, probably thinking the tide is finally turning in their favor, actually welcome them inside the walls. Step 3. The trap springs. In the dead of night, on April 5, 1255, those fake deserters quietly open the city gates from the inside, letting Manfred's entire waiting army flood right into the sleeping city.
As our source text puts it so chillingly, it was the beginning of the tragedy. I mean, just imagine that sudden, horrific shift. One moment, you think you're safely behind impenetrable walls, generously sheltering defectors. The very next moment, you wake up to the ultimate nightmare. An invading army is already inside your home. It was a nighttime betrayal that completely sealed the doom of Ariano's defenseless citizens.
The historical records from the time guide us through the vivid, agonizing details of what happened next, and they are just brutal. The Swabian troops didn't just capture Ariano, they subjected it to absolute ruin. They sacked the city. They burned homes and churches straight to the ground. Even their magnificent cathedral was completely destroyed. But of course, the true horror was the human cost. So many inhabitants were slaughtered in what has been remembered through the centuries as the horrific massacre of the Carnale. This was a devastating trauma that plunged Ariano into a long, incredibly dark period of hardship. But history, as we know, is always in motion. While Ariano was suffering, the macro-level geopolitical conflict between the papacy and the House of Swabia was escalating to an absolute boiling point. Pope Urban IV decides it is time to turn the tide, and he makes a monumental move. He summons Charles of Anjou, who is the brother to the French King Louis IX, down into Italy. The Pope officially tasks Charles with a massive mission: conquer the Kingdom of Sicily and break that Swabian stronghold once and for all.
And this brings us to the ultimate turning point. Mark this date, February 26, 1266, the Battle of Benevento. Charles of Anjou directly confronts Manfred on the battlefield, and Charles wins. Manfred is actually killed in the fight, and with his death, Swabian dominance in the south completely collapses. For the people of Ariano, you have to understand, this wasn't just some distant shift in political power. This was vengeance. This was the dawn of a brand new era.
This builds into just an incredible story of resilience. Think about the absolute night and day contrast here. Back in 1255, the city was devastated, slaughtered, and burning in the dark under Manfred's betrayal. But jump forward just 14 years to 1269, and we enter an era of rebirth, hope, and real reconstruction. The Angevin victory opened a brand new page. Charles of Anjou didn't just win the war. He actively ordered the rebuilding of Ariano's fortifications and the full restoration of that ruined cathedral. June 7th, 1269. This is a date etched into the very soul of the city. According to tradition, this is the day Charles of Anjou made a legendary royal visit to Ariano.
Imagine the scene, a victorious sovereign walking through a city that is still bearing the deep, physical scars of a devastation suffered 14 years earlier. He saw those wounds. He recognized that Ariano had bled because of its unyielding, stubborn loyalty to the church, and he wanted to reward them in a way that went way beyond just rebuilding stone walls. So, what do you give a city that sacrificed everything for you? Charles gave Ariano the ultimate spiritual reward. He gifted Bishop Pellegrino 2 thorns from the crown of Christ, les sacres spinae. Now, our source notes that while this specific gift isn't attested by official archival documents from the exact time, it undeniably became the absolute core of Ariano's identity. It was a profound symbol of gratitude and benevolence from a king to a city that had lost so much for its faith.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because it brilliantly illustrates how a city processes its own past. We are bridging a gap of over 700 years here. This epic tale of destruction, survival, and royal rebirth didn't just stay locked away in dusty books or quiet archives. It transformed. It moved from being a historical trauma into a living, breathing community tradition. The memory of the flames of 1255 and the royal gift of 1269 literally became the heartbeat of Ariano's cultural identity.
Which brings us to today, and exactly how that memory is kept alive. Every single summer, Ariano travels right back to the 13th century through the historical reenactment of the gift of the Holy Thorns. And guys, this isn't just some small gathering, it's a massive, vibrant event. We're talking historical processions, highly skilled flag throwers, meticulously costumed characters, and some fierce but friendly competition between the local districts or contrade. It's this incredible blend of faith, history, and massive public participation. And it's all safeguarded by a deeply dedicated association that formed back in 1998, just a year after they held the very first edition in 1997. When you look at it, this centuries-long journey truly reads like a movie script. We start with the bloody siege and the tragedy of 1255. We pivot at the historic Battle of Benevento in 1266. We see the majestic royal visit and the gift of the thorns in 1269. Then, centuries later, a modern community decides, hey, we're reclaiming this history, launching their first reenactment in 1997. And that leads us all the way to a massive milestone in the modern era, 2026. And that brings us to this incredible number right here, 30. Happening this very week on August 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2026, this festival is celebrating its monumental 30th edition. Just think about what that actually means. It's almost 3 full decades of shared memory. It's no longer just about remembering a 13th century king. It represents the passing of memory from one modern generation to the next. The children who watched the very first flag throwers back in 1997 are now passing this vibrant tradition on to their own kids. How cool is that?
It's truly amazing how a single night of betrayal in 1255 eventually blossomed into centuries of community pride and cultural celebration. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative question to chew on regarding our own backyards. What piece of history still lives in your city? Are there ancient stories of tragedy or triumph hiding right behind the local festivals you attend every summer? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Until next time, keep exploring the history that lives all around you.